And it's interesting because this whole topic of teamwork in qualitative research came up a few times during my coaching calls with some of the QRB, so the qualitative research blueprint students last fall. And that question came up of navigating work in teams and how to best manage data analysis in particular when you're working in teams and having more than one person or a couple of people going through the data, analyzing transcripts, so on and so forth. So it was because of that the topic first came out, but I must tell you that it wasn't the only time that it came up. There was also one instance where I had my email go out asking what would you like to see here in 2021, and the question that I got was, can you please talk about teamwork? I have a hard time managing the data and working with a team of people when we're going through a qualitative research project. So I have a few strategies to share with you today. For anyone who is live, you are more than welcome to post questions as we go. I'll try to kind of like talk a bit longer towards the end and stick around for a bit longer to even answer questions that might come up in the chat. But I wanted to tell you that it is something that I feel it's very natural, because when we hear that expression by John Maxwell, teamwork makes dream work, I think we often stop and think, does it? Like, it can not necessarily mean dream work for you. Sometimes teamwork means more time managing, more time aligning schedules, priorities, and it can also feel that you are pulling the weight more than others. And it can cause that feeling of discomfort and that natural question of, why am I even doing this? So I guess there are two sides to that question. The first one I'm going to touch on right away. The second one, I will touch on that later on when we talk about strategies that you can use. Why am I even doing that? The reality is, qualitative research is highly relational. It's very hard or almost unlikely that you'll be able to conduct a qualitative research project with human participants that will be you and you only. It's very likely you will have a team that might include research assistants, yourself as the academic or as a graduate student, and then you have that relationship, mentor, mentee, supervisor, student, and all those things create dynamics, but they are necessary. And because the research is highly relational, in a way, we must learn how to navigate some of the ebbs and flows and the discomforts that might happen along the way. So in my blog post, I shared 3 strategies to help you potentially manage your teamwork to the best of your abilities. The thing is, I didn't give you any strategy that would mean you not spending time and not being involved. And I'm sorry if I will be breaking your bubble here, but the reality is if the project is a priority to you, if it is important for your pipeline, if you know that term, it's something that Kathy Mazek often uses, like your publication pipeline. If the project is important for your publication pipeline, if it is something you want to see being completed, being fruitful, getting the results out there, being published, it does mean spending time. And don't think this is unique to academia. It is absolutely not. It is just how it happens in academia. But it's the same if you are a business owner, for example, if you are an entrepreneur and you're presenting your idea to an investor, for example, the first thing they want to see is whether you have invested money yourself in your idea, in your business venture. In this case, as a qualitative researcher or as an academic, you're not investing money necessarily, but you are investing your time, which translates into money. It's your biggest asset, it's what you have that is the most valuable for your work and for your career. So I didn't offer any strategies in the blog post, and I won't offer here strategies that solve the issue of you not having to invest time. What I did was offer you a few strategies that I have been involved with in the past that worked really well for me and that I would encourage you to try, especially when you feel that a certain project is important to you and you really want to see that project flourishing and being completed and really being out there where it will give people information they need, where it will be published, where it will be presented, so on and so forth. So the first strategy is one that I actually had the privilege of experiencing firsthand when I was in grad school. So I would say the 2 first years, maybe not the full second year, but for almost 18 months, we met weekly. So Maria, who was one of my supervisors, Jessica, who was the research coordinator for the study and involved with the qualitative piece of the grant, and myself, we met every single week. Well, of course, there were weeks we missed it, but it was pretty much every single week for the whole year of 2014 and the following year, a few months into 2015. We did it while data collection was happening, and also we were starting to analyze the data. Those meetings were not a waste of time. Even there were definitely days where I could tell that I was busy, that Jessica was busy. We were taking the train to go somewhere else and meet Maria, who also was busy. And just think about that. Like for all of us, like especially for Maria as an academic with admin things and responsibilities, it's an hourly meeting on a weekly basis. It is a big commitment for sure, but it can also speak to how much of a priority that project was. And I gained immensely from that as a student. It was in those meetings that my initial analysis was challenged, how the desire that I have to see dietetics playing a bigger role in what I was seeing in the data came out and was challenged by my peers, my team, because they knew the data and they were like, are you sure you're like, how do you feel this is actually capturing what is happening here? And in those meetings, we would use a whiteboard. If you were discussing data, we would be writing things, writing our ideas, creating these visual aids for us to have a good grasp of what was happening in the project and where things were going. And I said in the blog post that I also think that it is one of the reasons why I became such a visually guided person. And if you don't know what I'm talking about, it's something that I explain in the free mini masterclass. And I also explain that in the qualitative data analysis masterclass, the course that we just relaunched and revamped. So that's what it means. The visually guided is just a way of moving from your data to your writing. And I do think that that whole structure of our meetings on a weekly basis played a role in how I started relying on visual aids to be able to go from my data to my writing. So that is the first strategy that I would recommend. If a project is your baby, you want to see it moving along, moving forward at a reasonable pace and you don't want to see things falling through the cracks. And also, if you want to be there for your students, for your trainees, make sure that your schedule reflects that. And if a weekly meeting is too much, what is feasible and what sounds like a good pace for you? Now, when I mentor, I have a mentoring slash coaching program, and I have students that work with me, and they are students that have their own supervisors, and I am supporting the supervisor slash student. I don't meet on a weekly basis. I meet on a bi-monthly basis. And we go where the project needs to go. And sometimes we talk about personal stuff and life, because that is also part of who you are as a researcher. And if you don't understand that about that piece of the humanity behind your team members, you might not understand very well why they are pushing so hard, for example, for nutrition to be important among pregnant and postpartum women. So that highly relational aspect really means investing in people and in knowing people. And those weekly meetings, or whatever frequency you can work around, is the first strategy that I would give you. The second one is more when you move to the writing phase. The writing meetings. If you are someone who is working on a paper or a thesis chapter or some sort of report or a book chapter or a book draft, and you're struggling to move along, the writing meetings are very helpful. It's not necessarily finding a writing body, but it's inviting someone in your circle to really work with you in advancing the writing. Of course, you might need to think about someone who is also invested in that work being published. It might be hard to ask someone who has nothing to do with the project and the results that will come from it to really invest their time and invest their biggest asset, their time, in writing and working with you if they are not involved in the project. With that being said, if you are in that mentee role, I would really bet that if you ask someone who is a mentor to you, who is in your supervisory committee, to walk alongside you and help you take something that is not ready for publication or not ready to be presented and to help you get there, I think you're likely to hear yes, especially if you're willing to put in the hours and the work and make the most of those writing meetings. I really struggled with writing one of my thesis chapters, like one of my papers. And one of the reasons was because I wasn't really sure, or I wasn't placing women's geographical location very well in the analysis. And the analysis was messy, and it took me the writing to see that and to realize that. It actually took me beyond writing. It took me reviewers, a good reviewer who said, this is not working well for this reason. It took me someone external to point it out for me to actually be able to make the necessary changes. But until that happened, I was struggling with writing one of the papers that I needed to write for my PhD. And when I asked for help, she definitely, like one of my supervisory committee members, she was definitely open to helping, and I think she enjoyed that, and she was really able to mentor me beyond the paper. But it created that accountability of wanting to move that project forward for both of us. So that's the strategy number one. Strategy number three is really related to things that I have learned as an entrepreneur. What I'm telling you here is that teamwork is not necessarily easy. It's not always going to be pleasant, but it's necessary. What I have found after starting a business is that there are definitely wonderful things out there that can help you manage your schedule, manage your priorities to the best of your abilities. I personally use a physical planner, and this is my full focus planner. Um, I have been using for more than a year, and this is where I organize my weekly tasks, and they are all related to my quarterly goals, to what I want to accomplish in a quarter. I use the physical planner, but if I want to see things happening, whatever I need to do also goes into my calendar. And whether you use Outlook, Google Calendars, or anything else, your calendar should be reflecting your priorities and the projects that matter to you. And this is something that I was going to say, that's where Kathy Mazak comes in as well. She has so many podcast episodes that you can access at no cost. And she has many lives in her Facebook group. If you are someone who is a woman or identifies as a woman, you can enter the group. If you are not someone who can enter the group, she has a podcast, and that podcast is available to everyone. And when you hear what she says, you understand that whole idea of the publication pipeline and the priorities. And when I told you in the beginning that qualitative research is highly relational, and the one of the piece that I said there is you have to learn how to work around some of the discomforts. With that being said, one of the things that Kathy often teaches is for you to reassess your pipeline and know the projects that you really want to advance because they match your career vision, your branding, your academic branding, and who you want to be and what you want to be remembered for as an academic. So think about those things. So I mentioned the full focus planner. I know Kathy teaches Trello, and Trello is one of many task managers that you can use that are free versions that you can definitely take advantage of. I personally use in the business and with Jessica now, Jessica that you often see around here, Jessica Scholes, she and we use Asana. We like Asana. I find Asana super helpful. Took me a while to get used to it, to even put things into Asana. But the more you do it, the more freedom you find in actually knowing what's important and what's coming up in your schedule. Last but not least, what if I am not the PI, but I want the project to move forward? So what if I am not the principal investigator, the main boss in the project? That's where communication comes in and is very important. If you're seeing that a piece of the project that you really care about or that you think it's super important moving forward is falling through the cracks, make sure that you reach out to whoever is the PI and say, hey, I have some time and I really would like to support so and so, or to take on leading the data analysis or having meetings to move this forward a bit faster with this person. How would you feel about that? Or are you okay with that? So I think people in general are open to that. And if they are not, maybe that's a red flag that it's not a good person to actually be in a partnership and to work with. But I would try, especially if it's a project that matters to me. And with that, I will end today. And I hope you have a wonderful week. If anyone has any comments after you watch this and you have your 2 cents about whether or not qualitative teamwork makes dream work or nightmare work, share with us. And if there are things you have tried and really worked well, let us know. And I got the idea to write this blog post from one of you, and I will definitely build on this next week, because we'll be talking more specifically about analyzing qualitative data in teams. So I think you will really enjoy how this week and next week will kind of like be tied together and connected. And you know, we're always learning. And is teamwork easy? Not really. Not in my opinion. If it is for you, you definitely, my friend, are blessed. You're lucky. But if it is not, then understanding what might make it more challenging for you and trying to work from that point might actually be your next step and what is necessary. So you can actually decide what strategies to implement and how to move forward with more confidence and taking your projects where they need to go. Okay? So if you have any comments and questions, feel free to post them, and I will be taking a look later. So have a great day, a great rest of your week, and I'll see you next week. Bye.